I see you. Good evening, sir. I don't see that I'm on the radio. Oh, yes, I'm on the radio. A very pleasant good evening and welcome to the Ken Rampersaud Show on Island Zone Radio. On this beautiful Monday evening, it's kind of rainy here. Don't know what the weather is like really. I'm trying to split the screen so we could. All right, we good. You hearing me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, I
I
like
can hear
that.
you loud and clear, yeah?
Good, good. Good
It's a good
evening,
thing.
sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
All right, all right. I'm actually very busy today because you know what, like I told you, I'll be heading to Canada tomorrow morning. I hope I could leave here at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, so that I could beat the traffic to get it out of New York, you know.
Hmm.
So I am glad that we are going to talk about this. I'm glad that you've agreed to team up with me, especially when it comes to things that's affecting our Guyana, you know. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you and welcome to this program. Tonight we are discussing an issue that continues to bring pain, sorrows, and heartbreak to families across Guyana: the increasing number of road accidents in our country. Almost every day, we hear of another crash, another injury, another life lost too soon. These are not just headlines, they are human lives. Dear mothers, fathers, children, brothers, sisters, friends, and loved ones whose lives are changed forever in a single moment. We must ask ourselves as a nation, why is this happening so often? Is it reckless driving, speeding, drinking and driving, poor road conditions, weak enforcement, or we simply become careless when it comes to the value of human lives? I hope we haven't get to that stages yet. Whatever the cause is, one thing is clear: too many people are dying. And you know what? Too many young people are dying. Too many families are grieving, and the time has come for serious discussion, accountability, and action. Tonight, we will be speaking with our guest, Dr. Naraindat, to get an insight into the cause of these accidents, the impact they are having on our society, and what we could do to save our lives. So, Dr. Naraindat, I looked at your program last week where you interviewed that young lady. Her son he died too. He was visiting Guyana. I've also met with a mother who lost her daughter in Guyana in a motor vehicle accident. Also, we heard another young girl died in Guyana. And so every day we turn on the computer, we hearing somebody dies. Give me an opening statement and then I'll go right ahead and ask you my questions.
Yeah, for sure. So, first of all, um, I think it is important for us to have these kinds of conversation. I think that's one of the reasons why you are investing your time and make sure that you do a topic as it relates to all of the accident. And so I'm looking forward for the back and forth conversation here because at the end of the day, we have seen too many things happening. As it relates to accident, almost every day it seems like it.
Yes.
And that can be a dangerous thing not only for the families but
Right.
to the broader community as a whole, right? And I think even though we live so far away, it affects us in some shape or form. And that's one of the reasons when you invited me to join you,
Yes.
it wasn't a matter of deciding if I should join because I also want to make my contribution to of an important, issue that we are facing with right now.
Yes. Definitely. And I'm sure that we could go back and forth. We actually, I want to tell our viewers, we are two concerned Guyanese. And I'm so glad that I'm in New York and Dr. Narain that is in Canada. And we do pay attention to what's going on in our country. And, you know, why I say this, and I'm so glad that we could team up. He's a doctor in social work, and I'm a nurse. But what I like about our team is that we are concerned citizens of Guyana. We born there. Our navel string, as you said, shook in
Hmm.
Guyana. You know, so anything happens, he contributes. a lot where it comes to Guyana, and I does the same. So we want actually a better Guyana. We want to see people live a meaningful life, a life where there is no so much grief that's going on. So, you know what? I think we I could divert a little bit. Can you talk to me a little bit about the interview that you did last week? Because it has profoundly affected me. Listen to that mother hearing her son died and what she's experiencing. I think that the grief that this mother is experiencing is something very difficult. I think it was her only son, right?
Definitely.
So
No, she
let's
has more kids, including boys as well. Yeah. Go
okay,
ahead.
okay. So I if you can tell me, and I've deviated and I hate to do this, but I'm going with our
That's okay. That's okay. Freestyle,
yeah,
freestyle.
freestyle. That's right.
Mhm,
So how
mhm.
I mean, and I know that it's difficult to interview someone of that magnitude, and I was so glad that you were giving her the space to take a deep breath and come back again, refresh. How difficult was it for you to interview that mother?
Yes. First of all, I know the mother personally. We grew up
Yes.
together. We are basically from the same village, so to speak. We attended the same school, and all of these types of things. And so, I mean, behind the scenes, and as a human being myself,
Right.
it's hard, right? It's hard knowing that a child, like a 21-year lost his life. And so for me, I had a good conversation with the mother first, and kind of and say to her, look, we want to create a space for you so that you can continue to grieve in ways that works for you, right? And
Absolutely.
so she gave me that permission, first of all. But honestly, it was extremely difficult on me to kind of stay focused during a live show because it wasn't like a pre-recorded where we do 5 minute show, we record it, we erase out the piece, and then we continue on. Because I'm behind every title, is a human being as well
Of
too,
course.
right? And so I feeling my own feelings as well too. Um,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm very skilled. I'm very
I know
skilled to
that.
say
Yeah.
two things as well too, and I think where I'm coming from because you work in that
Of
kind of
course.
line of work as well too. But I also wanted to be fair to the mother,
Right.
even though she gave me full permission to do the interview and all of that. I also
Yes.
know based on my professional as well too that little bit of a space in terms of whatever time she may need, can make all the difference as well too. And so I did a few breaks in
Right.
between, just so that she can kind of catch herself. But crying was totally fine because she need to kind of get it out. She need to grieve in ways that work for her, and she's openly grieving, right? I follow her posts and things of that sort,
Good.
but not easy. There's no reason for me to say differently. But at the same time, I'm glad we did it. But we also will have a follow up as well too. I just want to give her some time. But
Yes.
in a few weeks or a few months, we want to follow up to see where she's at, what else, what other support we can offer to her, so that she can continue to strengthen herself, continue to embrace the fact that her son is no longer here. Not an easy thing, easy for you and I to say it, but that's what the reality is. The son is no longer here, and and the question is, what is it that we can do, as human beings, as former villagers, to kind of allow her to heal, in ways that works for her. But not easy to kind of answer your question. That I'll tell you for sure.
Right. 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 And I, from
I
listening
got
to
lots
you,
of feedback from people. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yes, what I was saying to you, I got a lot of feedback from people, and people were saying how difficult it was on them just to watch the show, right? And you yourself, you have busy lives, but I believe you watched that show from the beginning to the end as well too. And I can imagine you yourself probably going through different emotions in different ways just to watch the mother, grief.
You know, Dr. Narayan, that when I was listening to the show, I was very emotional, to be very honest with you. I just
Yeah.
woke up, and I'll tell you why. Because my brother died at 32 years old in a motorbike accident. not too far from where I'm living. And so that has a profound, and I was the one who had to go and identify his body. So whenever, anytime I'm passing a near a motorbike accident, or anytime I am hearing these kind of road accident, it bothers me. And also, you may know that I've lost my mother when I had just came to the United States, and she was just 53 years old. So um, it bothers me when I hear about these things, and to hear the mother cry that how close she was with her son. I was very close with my mother too. I used to plait my mother hair, play with her. I was the only son at that time. You know what I'm saying? So it did bring back so much memory for me. So I am so glad that you did the interview though, because as much as I I would love to do an interview like that. I think if she was in good hands, and I am glad that she's in your hands, because I know that you will definitely pay attention to these with her and her family. Um, and the truth of the matter is, people probably don't know, but you and I, we spend time on the internet. We try our very best to see behind the scene how we could help people in Guyana, and who's struggling, who we could really help. Now, um, why do you believe that? Why so much road accidents happening in Guyana? Why so frequently?
Yeah, yeah, good question. And we follow along these things, just like many
Yes,
people who are probably watching as well too. I mean, first of all, we cannot compare Guyana with places like the United States of America and Canada because, as you would know, here, we have four lanes going one side, four lanes in the other side, and we have two safe lanes at the side, just in case if you get
right,
breakdown and so forth.
right,
So it's very very different because they're built with those safety features in mind, right? So these folks kind of
yes,
think
yes,
along. Guyana is still a developing country,
yes,
but obviously for a variety of different reasons, and when you analyze it well, I mean, I don't know the stats, so I have not dig into stats and so forth, but when you really dig into it, you can see that speeding is it's a very common piece. People, and this you'll see, right? And I'm not talking about this particular accident here, I'm talking about generally
right.
speaking.
Of
People
course,
will be
no,
drinking and driving. Yeah, and people are drinking driving, and some people are not necessarily trained to drive as well too. And believe it or not, Ken, this is a true story. I had somebody who reached out to me and asked me if I know somebody where they can buy their license, and this is like in Guyana, not too long ago, right? And I know the individual well, and they adore me and all of that. And I kind of said to the individual that I will support you in so many different ways where you can grow and become a successful individual, but I will not encourage you to go that path. And I had a good talk with them as well too, because
yes,
I think maybe it's a norm in certain areas as well too. And not surprising, not shocking. That was not the first time I heard that, but all of those types of things, because as you would know, people who are watching over here, there's steps to things. You have to have like your beginners, which we call it G1 over here. You practice for a
right,
little while, for 8 months. You cannot go get your license, earlier than 8 months, things of that sort. Somebody has to be with you, for so many months, all of those types of things. Then you have another second thing on all of that. And I see a lot of people fail and they get upset and all of that. But when you think about it,
right,
if you're not ready for the road, you really cannot have the privilege to drive, because it is not about the individual who's driving per se. It is about the people, right? It's about the people, the innocent people, because in many cases, the innocent people are losing their lives when you think about it. So a variety of different reasons. I mean, the roads are not as wide as it's over here, and everybody's in a rush, right? Everybody wants to get home, faster than everybody else. There, road rage and so forth. Those are all real things. These are things you and I and everybody else who are watching, right? We see these clips and so on. We see the kind of things people do. So a variety of different things, contribute to all of these unfortunate situations.
also, and it happens here too in New York that, people, they drink and drive. I see people going to the bars, and after they finish drinking, they go and they drive. I cannot understand that there's so many awareness, so many people talking about drinking and driving, and still people continue to do this. You know what I mean? Um, And you and I know that it really impairs you when you're drinking and driving. You know, good night, Mr. Dennis, Danny Guy, watching all the way from Canada. Thank you very much for tuning in. And do you think, and as for question number two, actually kind of related with question number one,
Hmm.
I have seen that a lot of speeding in Guyana. I've also seen where people drink and drive. Um, Also, one of the things that we could talk about that you and I seen, cell phone distraction, and sometimes I get tied up with that too, and I try to, not I try, I put my phone down. So, don't you think that cell phone is a big distraction too, Narai?
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah, you've hit it on the nail there, and it's a norm. So I forget all about that because we live in a digital
Yes.
world, and everybody has a cell phone,
Right.
and everybody needs to or feel as if they need to respond right away and stay on top of things and so forth. I have used cell phone driving in the past, but I have to tell you that we all learn our lesson, and I got stopped, by the cop.
Really?
This is a long time ago. I was younger and whatnot, and then the cop was very nice
Yes.
because I have a clean record, and the cop said to me that you do realize that things can happen within a second, and my response to him was absolutely yes. Right, he didn't charge me or anything of that sort, but honestly, anytime I touch that phone and I get inside the car, it already reminds me of that police officer of what he said, and at the end of the day, I have to be that example, right? So yes, so people do it, and so I think using there people can still communicate. You use a headset, all of those
Right.
types of things, and they have system now, as you would know, you can answer calls through your in your
Vehicle.
car system and things of that sort. But all of that, and even eating, any sort of distraction, because when you're on the road, we don't think of it, but you really have to pay attention, to the basic things that we are aware of, like the blind spot, all of those basic things. And wintertime, I know we're talking about the Guyana in particular, but when you think about it, like here,
Right.
it is a whole different ball game with the winter, driving on ice. Like those are all things
Yeah.
contribute as well too, right? But those are things we cannot necessarily prevent, like in terms of how much we have. But what we can do, we can control our speed. We can go a little bit slower. We can
Right.
probably don't go out that day. All of these types of things. But keep in mind, when people are on the road, and maybe you have question along the line, but the business people, for example, in Ghana, when I say business people, like those taxi people in Ghana and so forth, they do not necessarily follow like the rules, and nothing personally here. If we have to people who are watching or will be watching, nothing personally here, but this is just an example. Sometimes they put more passengers in the vehicle and things of that sort, and all of that can contribute to to all of these types of things, because and nobody, as I understand it, and as I know it, and based on my own experience being in Guyana and visiting Guyana, people necessarily wear seatbelts, and that's a huge
Right.
problem
Right.
as well too, right? And I'm not understanding, but again, we do not want to put our values in people per se, but I drove with people. People took the wrong where they had their baby, 2-year-old baby, like standing on top of their lap and holding the window, like driving. That's a for me. That's
Wow.
I don't see
Wow.
things like that here, and those are all like risk, and but that's a
Right.
cultural thing, and that's a norm, and those are things I think people have to kind of adjust to. Right, it's not going to be easy for people to adjust to, but these are things. These things does happen, right?
I'm going back to one of your statement you made that I'll share with you. At one of my job, the entrance is actually, I had a site patient was living upstairs on the second floor, and every night that I'm passing through the door, he would say, "Hiram," he called me Hiram. "Be very careful out there." And so a couple of times he keep telling me every night, and I get upset with him sometimes. Why he always tell me
Hmm.
this? And he said, I asked him one day, "Why are you always telling me to be careful?" He said, "Listen, I am not telling you about you. There is some crazy drivers out there that you have to be very careful and to watch how they are driving. It's not about you alone, it's about everybody who's on the road." Um, One of the things that I've noticed, I live in a school street, and one of the things that I've observed is that, and not only children, adults, while they're walking on the road, their eyes, rather than they watch where they're going, they're on their cell phones. So that has become a
Yeah,
big issue too. What advice do you have
yeah,
for people who are constantly on their cell phones? It's a problem.
yeah, yeah. So we live in a different era. So those things, your generation now is different than our time. You would know, and so there's not much that you and I can do, like a person like you and I can do to kind of change things because we live in a fast-paced world and so forth, and so people the younger generation see and all of these things become a norm. But ideally, I think people have to understand and accept the fact that their time and place for everything. Here in Ontario, Canada, they've made a rule actually where you cannot really have your cell phone in your classroom and so forth. You can only have it with communication and your teachers discretion and things of that sort. So we kind of made some changes along that line because study shows that all of this distract you in different ways, not only for things like accidents and all of that, but like mentally, as you would know, even the cell phone thing, which is a thing, too much of it, it's not good for you as well too, which is a whole different type of topic which we may have talked about on different shows for sure.
Yeah. While I like to be honest with you, when I hear about plane crash and so on and I think people should have their phone with them. But I think that students, they take advantage of the situation, and that's why they're seizing these telephone in the classroom. So that's a good thing. Um, do you think that stricter traffic laws and tougher penalties would help reduce accidents, especially when it comes to Guyana?
First of all, it will take some time and it will be hard for people to adjust to any sort of change. But in the long run, it can make a huge difference for sure because if there's no kind of penalty and if nothing happens, if something goes wrong, people will just continue on with their life doing doing their normal thing. The only disadvantage is it affects the people who follows all the rule and who are doing all the right things. So those people will be affected. But definitely if you have some stronger rules, regulations and so forth, as as it relates to accidents and better traffic flow and all of that, it definitely these are things worth investing in. So this is not about like a yearly bonus and then you can use it for whatever you want. This is like people's lives, like young people are using their lives, and who knows what their contribution to life would have been, right? It's not even what is it we do now so that the mother or the siblings or family members can do to kind of carry on with life. Like this is serious stuff, and if we continue along the line, if things continue along how it's going right now, we that that's a serious thing, and so we now have to figure out ways as to how can we prevent and eliminate all of these things from happening. And definitely these things can be eliminated but, when you look at the most recent ones and so forth. um, Basically yes, we cannot change the past, and some people have to believe that if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. But even though that may be true, at the same time you live that way, say what, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. You still have to put things in place. You have to be take precautions. And so definitely, I mean, to answer your question, I think having stiffer laws, but a place like Guyana, like it's very difficult for people to follow along. But even the police officers, and even though I have many friends who are police officers, and they're good police officers, by the way, and have a lot of respect for them, you'll find it, there are lots of bribery, and things of that sort happening in Guyana and stuff like that. So even if we have policies in place and stricter laws in place, the question is, are we following? And the question is, the people who are in charge, are they will they do things ethically and kind of follow along as well too, or will they be fooled by a few $1,000s and say, hey, go ahead, do it, right?
I think, listening to you, I think, I not too long came back from Ghana a couple of months ago last year, but I also believe that, we need to see more police on the road. Um, I'm from West Coast on the west side, and I would like to see a lot of police presence that they would scare the drivers there. You know what I mean? Um, Also, and you said it right. I hope and I really wish that the police, and this is not going to anybody, and I'm not saying this
Hmm,
in a
hmm,
negative way,
hmm.
but I want to believe that the police need to get proper salary so that they would not need to take a bribe, and so that they all together, everyone could collectively help prevent road accidents in Guyana. Don't take no bribe. Think about people's life rather than taking that bribe, if you know what I mean, right? Um, how can we, as human being, as pedestrian, what role do we play in this, in a safer Guyana? Not only the drivers, what role do we play as pedestrians, as even to those motorcycle guys? Because if you're in a car, I mean, the sad thing is that a lot of people I see, a lot of minibus accident. Um, what role do we play, the pedestrians?
Yeah, so definitely a good question. And so, keep in mind, we have policies in place, we have, sidewalk, we have all of those things. So now, as pedestrians, we have an obligation to kind of follow along too. And I mean, you will know of the old golden rule where you look right, you look left, you look right again, and you only cross if it's clear, right? Those basic stuff. And so at the end of the day, you really have to keep your eye out on things, because a lot of people don't check their blind spot. Like right here in Canada, there was one individual. He ran over a stoplight and he killed about 15 young student,
What?
like a few years ago. And the case is still on trial, so to speak. Where I think he's going to be deported soon. But my point is that you have to, like, I mean, I do it, not that I can, like, we can prevent everything from happening, but even when I take my little ones with me, for example, during the weekend I went to get pizza, for example. So when I step out like that, that was like a busy, like, road, right? So when I step out of that pizza place, I make sure that I hang on to her, kind of thing, right? Because, like, consciously, right? And then kind of lead to the car and so forth. It doesn't take much for things to happen, and we really have to pay attention, because generally speaking, and there's a reason why we say accident too, because sometimes you will see these things happening where people will will turn right, or left, whatever the case may be, or thinking that they can bypass certain things within that 1 or 2 seconds. People do all kind of experience all of these types of things, even where people little things here and there, and it can cause not only accident, but that road rage. It changes your mood as well too, because there you are trying to get to your destination, somebody cut you off. Pedestrians, you have to always um, keep an eye on things. Sometimes you may have a different kind of accident where sometimes the wheel fall off as well too, right? These things, it does happen, and then
Right,
you
right,
lost
right.
control of that vehicle, and so forth. I saw a lot of video going around potholes and so forth. And me
Right.
coming home not too long ago, I when I was driving, I heard like a loud noise driving my vehicle, and I didn't think anything of it. Like I said, it's a pothole. But when I came home the next day, now I had like a flat, like a tire was like
My God.
flat. I tried to give
Yes.
it some like air. It wasn't taking the air because it was like the tire was gone. And so a lot of different things, keeping an eye on things. It's so so crucial. Summertime, especially here, it's much busier. Good news with places like here, there are stop signs, stop light, the all these types of things. People have to follow along. Sometimes I see people cross and there's no stop sign there. And I think it's also a cultural issue in different ways. And I'm going to relate it back to Guyana in a minute. But I see a lot of people come from different countries. People are not using the like the stop sign and so forth. They just cross anyhow. Um, and they kind of come of behavior and so forth. And you know, a lot of people, oh, even here in Canada, a lot of people losing their lives by accident. There's a little group where I get to see all everybody who's losing their lives, young student losing their life
Wow.
constantly by accident, um, and so forth. So it worth the extra effort, right, to do it the right way. It might be a little bit boring, you know, to kind of make the extra step to kind of wait for the green light, you know what I mean, before you cross over all of that. And even if the light is green, it's so important to watch too, because people do all kind of different, as you would know. And the worst I've seen actually was in the States, in New York actually. Like when I went there, nobody, I find that people keep going, nobody wait for anybody there. I'm not sure why, if it's a culture thing too. But green light, people, I'm not sure what's going on. Like people keep moving, doesn't matter if it's red or green. It's
Right.
still happening there. I noticed in like Liberty
You know
area, for
what?
example, like constantly.
Sometime you will find some people do that, but not all the time. Let me say hello
Okay.
to Shanta Ramroop. A very good evening to you. Nadira Tikdari, a very good evening to you. Kesho Jagroup, a very good evening to you. And we have Uma is watching all the way from California. Danny is watching from Guyana. Now, you know, we talk about parents, and when I heard that little child that died on the motorbike, in fact, two of them on from the west side died on the motorbike. You know, as parents, like as a father, I have, I drove my two sons all over the United States, 20
Mhm.
hours straight. One of the things that I've always do is make sure that my children, they're safe in their car seat. I made sure that I don't speed and I take my time on the road, that I pay attention, because I always say to myself, you know, that if anything happened, an accident is everybody's going to might die in this thing. So let me be the one who's thinking, be the one that using my head and think safely for my children. So I would encourage parents in Guyana that, you know what, if you are going out on the road, make sure you follow the rules and the regulation, wear your helmet, so that you could protect your children. Um, and we talked about this earlier. Do you think, and we could probably revisit this because I want to share too. I know people that came to me and asked me if I know anyone over in Guyana that they could buy their driver's license. And I think, like you said, it is something reckless to do. People should not be able to pay and get their driver's license, right? That's a safety issue. Also, as we're talking about that, I want to believe that, I don't know if the government is doing it, but they need to do a study to see why we are having so much accidents in Guyana. Also, what is contributing to these accidents, and see how can we prevent these accidents from happening. What's your take with all of this? And I know that you do studies and all these things, so you may have a good explanation.
Yeah. So I'll answer you, but I want to say hello to Nadira. Nadira is actual mother who I interviewed last
Oh,
like
really?
a week
Wow.
ago. Yeah. So that's her. So we hope you're
Hi,
doing
Nadira.
okay, Nadira. We know that it's hard, but do know that we are thinking of you. We think of your family as well too, right? So do know that. I want to give a special hello to Uma as well too, watching from the States. Uma and I, we actually are former classmates.
Oh,
I just
wow.
want to say hello to those folks, and I know people will be watching eventually. So to come back to your question, you know, obviously lot is happening in terms of the accident, and as we were talking about earlier, you know, there are different reasons why these things happen and so forth. We talk about the alcohol, we talk about people speeding, we talk about all of this, and that's where Guyana now need to invest. Speaking of investment, they need to invest to kind of come up with a study, right? To kind of figure out, you know, how many deaths is caused by, you know, I don't know, dry drinking or drinking driving, all of these, speed limit, and so forth, and that's how you come up with, you know, a plan to kind of try to close those gap, right? Because you and I will have different opinion, people have different opinion, and so forth, and whatnot. And once they have those data now, we can start to implement, whatever they find to be.
Absolutely.
But it is very obvious, though, that right, yes, right, but it's very you can see, you can read based on some of the pieces we have seen. Speeding is a it's a big factor. It has always been, and even though people probably did lose their life or so forth, as long as there's some sort of accident, people are traumatized as well too. Let's not forget that part of it. People are will be scared to get into a vehicle, things of that nature. When I visited Guyana, there was an individual who we hired to take us around. But when I realized that he hit somebody actually who was driving a motorcycle, and then I end up taking control of that. I decided
Oh,
to drive on my
nice.
own. That was the first time I drove in Guyana, and that was the best decision I've made because I realized I'm responsible here and I have to. Um, I mean, as you know, the roads are different in terms of you drive on the opposite side of that, and you're thinking to yourself,
Right, right.
at the end of the day, these folks, the assumption is that they have more experience, they know what they're doing, and so forth. But this particular individual was a younger individual too, but he was more kind of like all over the place. A lot of wildness was happening there, and then I knew that this is not making any sense. But as soon as I heard of this story of hitting somebody and kill that individual,
Mm,
and then I said to myself, like, I should use that as a lesson. Say, hey, um, and if I can prevent anything, and I took control of the vehicle. But definitely, it will start with a step. They have to do something, though. Like the government has a responsibility. The government is not responsible for the accident per se, because
right.
they're not the ones speeding and all of
We're
that.
not blaming
But
them.
the government, they have a responsibility to make sure that the roads are safe. When I say safe, people cannot park like truck that takes over like half the road. They cannot be doing stuff like that. They cannot put like sand take over half of the road and blinds block everything. Stuff like that. They have to put those types of things. So the government has a role to play, right, there in that. And it's too bad when Guyana, when the British folks, try to develop Guyana, or try to, make something out of Guyana. Nobody was looking at the big picture. So the roads, as you can see, they are very narrow. And this is not about being ungrateful or any shape or form, but the reality, it is, it's very narrow because nobody was thinking ahead. Nobody was planning ahead, and so forth. People are just looking for a piece of place just to kind of walk and do their thing.
Right,
Now
right.
developing, if they were to have those bigger spaces and so forth, you could have those two-way pathway to drive back and forth. What they can do there, though, but it's gonna be hard for people to follow, like start to have like one streets and stuff in certain areas, because you cannot have vehicles like go through there at the same time. I see folks, but they
Right,
have a way to make it work. You and I wouldn't be able to do it. You know
right,
what?
right.
It's special kinds of skill. But definitely, and the government have to take it seriously in terms of doing their piece to make sure like stricter laws, make sure that people who are accepting certain roles, authority roles, that they are doing it ethically. They're doing it because they have the passion to do certain things. And I think if they have, if the police officer really, if they have good relationship with the citizens and so forth, will make a huge difference. How we do it here, as you would know, is very different there, right? Like here, the police officer, when they talk to you, is like, it's their skill set is like it's like night and day. And we're not condemning anything here, just that there's a cultural difference. There, if there's an accident there, like automatically people start to beat people up and so forth. People take things into their own hands, all of that. So a lot of things can be done, and it's not like a 1 month thing. Like I said, the government, they definitely have, an obligation to provide, safe roads and all of those types of things, and make sure that they put, policies in place as well too, and people are following through with it. But it comes down to different levels as well too. If you're a driver, you want to make sure that you're not only thinking of you, really, you're thinking of the fact that you have people, with you in that vehicle. You're thinking of, your surrounding, and keeping in mind as well too, that in Guyana you will have animals and so forth, right? Dogs, and you'll
Right.
have cows and so forth walking around. So in the nighttime you do have accidents too, apart from all the other one. You have cows and stuff sleeping at the middle of the road, those types of things. I've seen people sleeping in the middle of the road, to tell you the truth.
Right. Right.
Stuff like that. Like those are like little minor thing. Like that's not a policy thing. But based on what I have seen, and being a born Guyanese just like yourself, I mean, somebody has to kind of step up and say, look, within a short period of time, this is the situation here, and we cannot continue along this path. It's so heartbreaking when I saw the situation with a little baby, 4 months old. Like how the heck
Oh,
do you watch something like that? You know, like I have a little 1 year old as well too, and so it's hard.
right. Definitely. Yes, I know that you're gonna come off soon. We got about 3 minutes more with you, or if you want to go play another 5, 10 minutes, that's fine with me. I don't care. But since you talk about animals, I want to add my piece. Now things have changed. I think with the amount of minibus and so on we have in Ghana, it's time now that we have pastures for animals so that they don't come and sleep on the road and they don't hang out on the road and these fancy things. So I think people need to be more responsible now and keep their animals away from these roads, right? Um, my final, I'm going to ask you two more questions that was not in the package of the question that I need to ask, but let me get your personal opinion. You know, we were glad that minibus started in Guyana. A lot of people like the fastness. They like to get to their destination as soon as possible. We know that you get to your destination as quicker than the big bus. Now, do you think, and this is our personal opinion, do you think we should scrap
Mhm.
minibus and bring back the Tata bus? What's your take in all of this? How do you put this in perspective, Dr. Narandat?
Yeah, yeah. And so, folks who are watching, this is just our opinion. We are not like living there, like, so we're not there every day and so forth. So I get it
Right,
that you folks are, seeing things from different angles. So we're just here to work together, and so forth. That's all, nothing more
right,
than that. And so I don't think that
correct.
we should necessarily discontinue that. But I think that it comes back to what we talked about, policies in place. And I saw the mother who lost the son, who I interviewed, was
Yes,
is talking about, installing more cameras and all those types of things.
yes,
Um, I think variety kind of good, but bring those buses. I don't have I never really used them because it was not during my generation kind of thing. But I've seen like
right,
them stored, at places and so forth. Or I may have seen when I was smaller. I may have seen people use it for like a um, excursion kind of thing, coming to the beach and so forth. Actually, those buses actually is good for the environment as well too, right? So let's not forget about that as well too, and so forth. But I think their varieties is good. We used to have so called tapir. I'm not sure. You are not from the Borbis area, right? From the
No, I'm
Borbis
from
area.
Lenora, West Coast, man.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So they so we have the tapir. You know the tapir is like a
I know the
halfway
tapir.
kind of
Yes,
yeah,
we had
tapir.
that
It used
too.
to be
We
very
had that
popular
too.
in Burbies. Okay,
Yes,
they don't
we
have
had that too.
that anymore, I think. And folks used to
Right.
build it. Folk used to kind of build it their own local way. So I think it should not matter, and I mean it doesn't really matter what they use there. I think people have to take this seriously, that this is serious stuff, right? Because think about the fact that people who are losing family members, they have to live with that for the rest of their life. That's hard.
Yes,
And as the
of
mother,
course.
Nadira keeps saying here, that it is hard, and she's right. It's hard, right? So we're not blaming anybody for anything here, but we're just being realistic here for sure. But I'm gonna follow along to see what is getting done, and maybe this is something, and eventually we have to how we can be part of that solution as well too, because come out to do a little talk and a little seminar here, so wouldn't necessarily solve anything. They have to do a whole lot more, really build the trust of the people as well too, like the Guyanese
Yes,
people,
yes,
that is, so that people
yeah,
can have the trust and say, look, I can have go there, I can do that. And even people over here, because when people go back, right, like yourself, myself, safety is so important, right? Safety is so important, and one of the safety pieces is about making sure nobody come and break into your house, so forth. That's a one safety thing. But now this whole traffic and the accident and so forth, people, like, this is serious stuff. I can remember as a child, the headmaster at Newmarket Primary School. I'm not sure if folks can remember, whoever are watching right now. Um, um, I remember his name. I believe his name was Dripal. Dripal. But you don't say Paul, you say Sir Dripal.
right,
So yeah, so he actually went to the airport to pick up his brother. He never came back. He got an
oh
accident,
wow,
right? And so for some, I'm just saying. So these things, it does happen. I know one of a very famous cricketer. I can't remember the name off my head, but a very famous cricketer
yeah, yeah,
went to visit his wife and kids and whatnot in Guyana. This is not too long ago. If you Google it, you'll find it. And he didn't make it home at all, right? So all of these things, it does happen. So it's something has to be done, and
see
people
one
have
thing,
to. We all have to play a role. Yeah, go ahead.
yes,
Yeah, you
I
go ahead.
see, I see John from Queens. John, thank you for tuning in, my brother. I don't see you much now, but thanks for all that you do for Island Zone Radio. Nadira, I feel your pain. I was on that bed listening to your interview, and I tell you, my heart break for you as a mother, because I was a young boy when my mother passed away. But when you were talking, it's like I saw myself in your son, because that's how mother and I live. I used to plait my mother hair. That's how I learned to plait hair. And my mother taught me everything. You know what I'm saying? Also, I want to say, to your interview last night, I was watching I see Babita Prabhu is watching the show. Babita,
Mhm,
thank you
mhm.
very much. And I really do like how Babita sung last night. I was having a good time with her show, with the interview with her. And I am so glad. She seemed like she have everything done packed. She know all the correct answer to you, and she is well grounded. So Babita, continue to be a source of encouragement and a source of inspiration for other singers. I think that you're doing a fantastic job. All right. Let me see. Somebody say, yes, that's him, Sir Drupal. I know him. So, yes. So, I would like for you, um, Dr. Sukram, if there is anything else that you want to say, you can go ahead with your closing remarks, and then I will say my piece, and we'll say goodnight to our folks that's watching.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to thank you, by the way, for really bring this topic forward, because this is important. It's so important because this can make a lot of difference, because we get people thinking now. For those of you who are watching, it is important for you to share that page. We want to get this message here. I know that these kinds of topic is not sexy kind of topic and all of these types of thing,
Right, right, right,
right? But we get it how things work. It's so important for you to share, so that folks can kind of get some extra knowledge and try to kind of think, because we all have some sort of responsibility to make sure that we are making our contribution. But do know that these kinds of topic ongoing, right?
right,
And regardless of where you live, be mindful of your surroundings. Like so much we could talk about here. Right now I'm thinking of the incident with the plane that happened in New York
Right,
City,
right.
right? Because it's a
New York,
Canadian,
right, right.
on so much going on, like on like it's an accident, on all of that. But do know that
Yes.
we appreciate your time. I appreciate you, Ken, and I look forward to see you here in Canada. And we will actually, I enjoy celebrating success, and it is such of a good thing. We will actually honor Ken Rampersaud when we came with our Activision a Hall of Fame medal. And so, because for me, I live with the philosophy that whatever we have to do tomorrow, I do it today, and whatever I have to do today, do it now. So I wouldn't be waiting on our special annual type of day to present that again. So if and can once we see each other a couple of days from now, we are going to make the most of that moment. So thank you, Ken, for having me, and I hope that you have a safe trip to Canada.
Thank you. Thanks. But before you go, I just thought of something that I had. And if you
Hmm.
want to spend 1 minute and come off, that's fine.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, if we don't say, how do we deal with you? I know you're the mastermind with this. Where grief is
Hmm.
concerned, how do we deal with this? How should parents and our family deal with this, with these accidents and the death of people? I want to close this show with that.
Absolutely, good question, and thank you so much for asking that, so that we can wrap it up in such of an important manner. Because at the end of the day, people are grieving, and so on. The very first thing, we have to accept the fact that everybody grieve in different ways, and so we cannot judge people. Some people, will lash out with anger and all of that, because that's their way to kind of grieve. So we should, first of all, never judge anybody at all, and do know that taking the time to grieve is so crucial, and people need to do it sooner than later. Don't just kind of keep it in. But there's nothing more powerful than connecting with people, though, Ken. Right? You can nobody, you and I, nobody for that matter, can deal with these kinds of heavy situation on your own. You have to connect
Yeah,
with people.
absolutely.
And if you are if people are at the point where they realize that everybody go through something, including death, everybody will go through these of grief. Connecting with a professional person is one of the best things you can do, and the reason for that is because they are trained. I know things are still a stigma in certain ways and little whatnot, but that's one of the best things you can do for you. I've seen people, Ken. Let me add a quick story here, where they've came to me actually broken because they've lost a family member. Is hard, right? I had a lady lost her husband, actually unexpected, broken,
Yes,
a white lady actually, and that lady was
yes.
pink and crying, and that lady was like a total mess. And 1 year, it took a while, but honestly, if I was to take out a picture of that lady, that's not something we do, like in our profession. It was like a whole different person, and that lumps a whole different version of herself, because she accepted the fact that her husband is no longer here, but that does not mean that her life is coming to an end, right? And so she find ways to celebrate. So never, don't be afraid to find ways to celebrate your loved ones. A lot of religious people will do things because it has some sort of meaning to them, not because the body is no longer that physical body is no longer here means that you cannot do anything for them. People might say, well, you never do anything for them while they're alive and so forth, right? You may have done
Right.
different kind of things, right, and so forth, but that doesn't mean that that's the end of it all. You need to find some sort of closure. If that's give you closure, then so shall it be. I'll leave you with that there, so that way you can give your final statement.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we get to push this piece in because we can't
Mm.
not answer that question. So Nadira, I am so sorry. I feel your pain. I know what you're going through. I've lost my brother when he was 32 years old in an accident. I had to go identify the body. I saw his brains was all over the place, and so that was tough on me. Hafiz, a kind of very good evening to you. Rhonda Spencer, a very good evening to you. We barely get 45 minutes with Dr. Narayan. That so. In closing, Dr. Narindat, I want to say again, thank you so much for agreeing for us to do this show. God bless you for always making yourself available. And thanks very much to all our viewers for watching our show. And please, by all means, share this show with your friends and family. And tonight's discussion reminds us that the road accidents are not just statistics. They are tragedies that leaves lasting pain for families and communities. The loss of even one life is too much, and clearly, more must be done to promote responsibility, improvement, enforcement, education, and we must educate the public and protect all road users. We all must be able to use the road safely. Let this not be just another conversation. Let it be a wake up call, everyone. Let us all drive safe, even passengers be safe, pedestrians be safe, even the authorities, we ask that they be more visible on the road to our citizens. Do your part to make the roads of Guyana a safer place for everyone to live. On this note, you're watching the Ken Rampersaud Show on Island Zone Radio. To all of you, thank you very much. Dr. Narandat, again, thank you very much. Have a great night, everyone.